Hello and welcome once again to the program DPR, the Petroleum Industry Regulator. Now, if you've not forgotten, the aim of this program is not only to inform you on the happenings in the Nigerian oil and gas industry, of which the Department of Petroleum Resources is the regulator, but to educate you on the detailed happenings in the industry. In a mild way, we just may entertain you. But not to forget that the petroleum industry is a very serious business. Now today our focus is on the tanker drivers, trucks integrity, and what the Department of Petroleum Resources is doing with relevant agencies like the Federal Road Safety Corps. You know them, the FRSC, the Standard Organization of Nigeria, SON, Vehicle Inspection Officers, VIO, I know you'll be very interested in that, and the Truck Owners Association of Nigeria to reduce road accidents involving petroleum products tanker trucks. Now, we'll be talking to Mr. Wole Akinyosoye. He's the Deputy Director, DPR, and the Zonal Operations Controller, Lagos Zone. But first, the DPR tidbits. The Acting Director, Department of Petroleum Resources, Mr. Ahmed Rufai Shakur, has condemned the sharp practices in the laboratory sector of the oil and gas industry, stressing that the department will stop at nothing to revoke the licenses of the companies found wanting in the exercise of their duties. The director, who was represented by Dr. Musa Zagi, the Deputy Director and Head Health, Safety and Environment Division of the department, said that some of the laboratory results from some of the companies do not help in the decision-making process in this highly sensitive industry, which is the cornerstone of the nation's economy. He buttressed his statement with how a particular specimen is given to different laboratory companies for analysis, and the results are never uniform. They all come up with divergent results.
Today we have a lot of problems, not only about the lack of equipment, but also the lack of sincerity. Sincerity amongst the laboratory operators, sincerity amongst the oil operators, and therefore undermining the outcome of laboratory analysis and results.
The head laboratory unit of the Health, Safety and Environment, Mr. Abiodun, also cautioned that laboratories should stop shortchanging their clients.
And up to the point of decision making, we are going to track all the activities going forward to be sure that the best international standards are followed up with in the industry.
He said that DPR is taking the bull by the horn by establishing a world-class laboratory in Owerri to service the petroleum industry. Nigeria is producing between 1,600,000 and 1,700,000 barrels of crude oil per day. The Chief Operating Officer, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, Mr. Roland Ewubare, made this known at the Oil and Gas Conference in the United Arab Emirates, adding that Nigeria would continue to comply with the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries OPEC output cuts. Now, according to Mr. Ewubare, the last quarter puts Nigeria at 1.7 million barrels per day and is committed to that threshold.
This is a special announcement from the Department of Petroleum Resources. Gas is safe. Gas cylinders are to be kept outside. If you're buying LPG cylinder, look for NIS number on the cylinder. Exchange of gas cylinders with retailers during purchase is best practice instead of refilling from another cylinder. Buy gas from certified LPG plant. Repairing faulty gas cylinders is unsafe. For more information, visit the nearest DPR office or our website www.dpr.gov.ng.
You're welcome back. Now, today's background report is on the Lagos Zonal Office of the Department of Petroleum Resources. What are their responsibilities in the area of regulation and monitoring of oil and gas industry within the Lagos metropolis and the state under its supervision like Ogun, Oyo, Osun, and Kwara states? Now, what are the zone and the field stations doing to reduce tanker accidents and explosion on our roads. The report.
The Nigerian oil and gas industry, otherwise known as the petroleum industry, is one of the most important aspects of the economy. The industry accounts for almost 40% of the country's gross domestic product, GDP. It contributes more than 80% of our budgetary allocations to all tiers of government and about 95% of the country's foreign exchange earnings. Interference of any kind, be it from the government or the populace, has ripple effects not only on governance but the entire economy. As a result, the affected government body is required not only to monitor the performance of the industry but also maintain its regulatory stability. This is where the Department of Petroleum Resources comes in. The Department of Petroleum Resources, a unit within the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, is the organization saddled with the responsibility of monitoring and regulating the Nigerian oil and gas industry. These are becoming more complex on a daily basis as technology improves. Expectedly, the Department of Petroleum Resources is also improving its regulatory and monitoring functions. The department has its headquarters in Lagos. It also created zonal offices. This is to make the job easier and closer to Nigerians. There are 7 zonal offices, namely Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt and Warri. Others are Owerri, Kaduna and Maiduguri. Under these zonal offices are also field offices. Our focus today is on the Lagos Zonal Office. Its office is beside the department's head office at number 5, Kofo Abayomi Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. Its responsibilities cover Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Osun, and Kwara states. For efficient operations, the Lagos Zonal Office has 7 units, namely Service Unit, which takes care of staff administrative and welfare matters. The Finance and Accounts Unit is saddled with the responsibility of budgetary, treasury, payroll, and revenue collections. The Terminal Operation Unit regulates the activities of the 8 deep offshore crude oil terminals and crude oil production and export. The Product Depot and Jetty Unit, better known as PDJ, regulates the bulk storage and sales of petroleum products in the 61 coastal depots and 16 airside aviation fuel depots operating in the Lagos metropolis. The Retail Outlet Monitoring Unit, ROM, of the Lagos Zonal Office regulates the storage and sales of petroleum products to end users at petrol filling stations. Presently, there are 1,104 petrol stations in Lagos State.
You can see that for the 10-liter dispense into this measurement can, what we have there is a margin of 0.3. So what that means is it falls within the allowable limits.
However, while the Lagos Zonal Office concentrates its monitoring and regulatory responsibilities in Lagos, the field offices at Abeokuta, Ibadan, Osogbo and Ilorin reports to Lagos. There are about 81 petroleum products depots in Lagos. 61 of these depots are coastal depots, while 16 are airside aviation fuel depots. The Lagos Zonal Office also has 3 giant gas depots under its purview, 99 liquefied petroleum gas plants, and 133 liquefied petroleum gas add-on plants. The Zonal Office takes care of 14 other CNG facilities and more than 10 industrial gas facilities.
My day-to-day work here is to monitor the activities that go on in this depot, this gas depot, from inception of receiving from the vessels, when the vessels come in, will monitor to ensure that there's full compliance, quality and quantity control.
However, the challenge of moving products from Lagos to other parts of the country has been on the front burner of discussions in the country in recent times. Nigeria has 4 refineries, 3 in the southern part of the country, while 1 is in the north. These imported products come through Lagos ports and are all throughputs through the 61 coastal depots, which are often moved to all other parts of the country by trucks. Though the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) in the 80s constructed 21 depots across the country and linked those depots with pipelines, which is the easiest and safest way to transport these highly inflammable products. Interference on these pipelines by criminals stopped the transportation of products through these means. Another easy way to transport petroleum products is by the rail lines. The rail gauge is narrow, preventing it from carrying much load. What is left then is the road transportation. Ironically, Nigerian roads, analysts say, is designed for 30 metric tons or 30,000 liters truck of petroleum products. Some of the transporters use 45,000, 60,000 or 90,000 liters trucks to convey products around the country. As they do this, they contend with other road users for the roads that are in need of repairs. In a quest to meet with their targets, most of the drivers do not rest adequately, and this often leads to fatigue. Sometimes they indulge in drugs and alcoholism. What follows is mayhem and disaster on the roads. What readily comes to mind are the 2017 Otedola Bridge disaster in Lagos and the recent Upper Iweka Onitsha tragedy. What about the integrity of the trucks and who certifies them? What are the levels of these drivers' education? Are they qualified to manipulate these trucks? What about their health? Though it is not the duty of the Department of Petroleum Resources to address these road mishaps, remember, these trucks are laden with petroleum products, which are the main responsibility of the department. What is it doing with the Federal Road Safety Corps to reduce these challenges?
Statistics we have and the researches we have conducted, as much as the roads are a factor, today the human factor still accounts for over 80% of these crashes that we are witnessing. And that's why I commend what DPR is doing, bringing the stakeholders again to a round table for us to look at it, because all these crashes are all avoidable and preventable.
Welcome back. You've just watched and listened to our report preceding the discussion on the responsibilities of the Department of Petroleum Resources Zonal Lagos office and the mayhem on our roads caused by tankers laden with petroleum products. Now, Antonia Amusu will be asking the Deputy Director, DPR, and the Zonal Controller, Lagos Zonal Office, Mr. Wole Akinyosoye, some questions in relation to these accidents and how he intends to find solution in conjunction with the relevant agencies and especially truck owners.
Hello and welcome to this segment of the program. Today we have Mr. Wole Akinyosoye. He is the Zonal Operations Controller, Lagos Zonal Office of the DPR. Mr. Akinyosoye, you are most welcome to this segment of the program.
Thank you so very much, madam. Nice meeting you.
Okay. We just want you to briefly tell us, when we talk about Lagos Zonal Office, you being the Zonal Controller, what does your office really do in this scheme of things?
Well, we don't have refineries like you have rightly pointed out, and but you could see that that this is a nexus of downstream in Nigeria. This is where most of the products are being consumed. And when you're talking about Lagos Zonal Office, you are talking about Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, including Kwara State and Osun State. That's what constitutes the zone. We don't have yet what you call refineries here in this zone, but Dangote Refinery is going to be on stream very soon.
Considering the fact that we're expecting Dangote Refinery to come on stream very soon, is that going to change the scheme of things in terms of your operation? Is it going to put a little more pressure on you?
I wouldn't talk about pressure because I would tell you that DPR is at its game and it's up to it.
You did say that you have about 81 depots, and then of course we'll still come back to Dangote Refinery coming on stream. And then I did talk about how it's going to change the scheme of things for you in the zone. Yeah. What about in terms of staff, manpower? How is it going to affect the operations?
Let me be frank with you. There's never going to be a time that the requisite manpower needed by DPR, especially in numbers and quality, will be available. And it's going to be simply uneconomical to do that. And what DPR has been doing the last 5 years or so is to automate its processes. So process automation has already put us there.
You use the word that Lagos is the nexus for the importation of petroleum products, the number of depots around there, and then of course from Lagos most of these products are moved out of the city to other parts of the country. So we want to look at the issue of trucking. What is your comment on that? Are there better ways we can do this, and what are we doing to ensure that we do it in a more better way?
Normally what happens is people transport this product because of for safety reasons. These are very inflammable products. People transport all over the world through pipelines. You and I know what has been happening to pipelines in Nigeria. Government spent a lot of money on pipelines. So the issue of pipelines there are double issues. First is the issue of safety of those pipelines. And second also is the issue of the aging pipelines. Many of these pipelines were put together prior to 1979. I think there were 19 of them. Later on, they rose to about 21 of the pipelines. And since then, you see, these are buried deep underground. Aging definitely will tell. So we need to do a lot of infrastructural change. But even at that, the ones that are there, like I said, vandalization is really a bane, you know. And again, where you don't have pipeline available, you will see that another very, very relevant way of transporting petroleum product is by rail. Virtually until now, to all intents and purposes, you'll see that Nigerian rails are virtually non-existent. We are hoping that by the time the rail system starts working, we are going to have more of these products transported by rail.
So I was going to ask you that since we are stuck with road haulage, I think now the next question we have to talk about is the issue of safety on the roads.
Yeah, we need to make do with what we have. In the best of times, even without putting all those pressure on our roads, the roads are not enough even for vehicular movement in Nigeria. And we heard that most of these roads, please permit me, I don't have the exact figure, but what we learned was that between 20 and 30 million, that is designed for these road tons. The roads were designed to carry for maximum load carry of between 20 and 30 million tons. But if you put a truck of about 60,000 liters on that, that definitely is way above the design of those roads. And most of these trucks are 45, 60, 90,000 liters. So they really are stretching the roads beyond its design capacity.
I'm sorry, sir. Sorry to cut you. Is it not possible to restrict these trucks or the tankers to ensure that they don't go beyond that 25, 30 that you talked about?
I can tell you it is possible to do that. And the DPR, we gave a commitment at the last AGM that we need to engage the industry to revert back to this. And I will tell you why. We are managing scarcity, right? And also maintenance of our infrastructure. Many of them will think that, look, it's better for them to transport maybe 60,000 liters at a go than going at tranches of 30,000 liters or 33,000 liters. So really, we don't have a choice than returning to the traditional system whereby we have to be pumping through the pipeline. That's the most efficient method, and it takes the pressure off the road.
But pending when we go back to that, the integrity of these trucks and ensuring that they are, because every now and then we hear these trucks either falling off on the road, causing one thing or the other. How effectively are you checking these trucks?
First of all, as we speak now, there is no loading of trucks in the depot without checking their structural integrity. But I will add a proviso. DPR is the regulator of the Nigerian oil and gas industry. DPR, we are not trained to look at the structural integrity of vehicles. But within the depots, you have the FRSC there. You have people who are trained to do this. And in fairness, they do their best to do that.
But for the ordinary man on the street, we see a lot of these rickety tankers. And people wonder, how could these tankers be carrying such highly inflammable products?
I can not agree less with you about the fact that there are rickety tankers out there, rickety trucks out there. But to say that that is the rule, that will be bending also the fact if we say that. That is not the rule. We are not 100% there. I'll be the first to admit that we are not 100% there. But we are looking at all of these gaps to ensure that we close the gaps to make our roads safer.
Yeah, in terms of closing the gaps, can you tell us how you're working with the drivers of some of these trucks and tankers? Is DPR working with the association to better educate and train them in terms of safety and road consciousness?
The process of recruiting tanker drivers, as far as we are concerned, is faulty. And we have raised this with the national chairman of PTD. And we felt, and they have agreed with us now, that we need to institute a process whereby there has to be periodic training, certification, and recertification, which we don't have presently.
Well, let's look at this accident at Otedola, the two at Onitsha, and many others involving tankers. Can you tell us what did you find out to be the major or some of the major causes of some of these very bad accidents?
There is only one cause. People blame bad road. And that's my personal opinion. Before we go to our discovery on post-accident investigations. Accident has only one cause. That is human being. Total PSC in the last 4 years have recorded 0 accidents. 0 accident. What did they do? What they did was what we had just proposed about training the drivers. They went in and instituted a process.
So we want to thank you so much, Mr. Wole Akinyoshoye, Zonal Operations Controller of the Lagos Zonal Office of the DPR. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Well, we have come to the end of the program today. Now, I hope you have learned something from today's edition, believing that the relevant agencies, including the Department of Petroleum Resources, will strive to reduce the challenges we have on our roads as a result of human errors from the tanker drivers. Join us next week for a more exciting topic. From now, it's goodbye.